Today we'll begin our Home Sweet Home unit, thinking about what makes a home. And the story that we're going to read is The Three Little Pigs. But before we do, I'd like to build a little background and tell you that a central part to any home a lot of years ago was a fireplace. And the fireplace used to be used for heating and cooking. And a long time ago, more people lived in small towns than on farms, and certain jobs were common to have then, more common than they are today for sure. And one job for a young woman was a maid, and a maid was hired to help do chores that could include things like cleaning and helping with the kitchen or other areas of the house, or even taking care of animals. And a common job for a strong man who lived near a forest was a woodcutter. He would do the hard work of cutting down trees into smaller pieces, and people would use that wood for building or for heating their homes and cooking, burning in the fireplace. Another important job was a mason. A mason is someone who builds with brick or stone, and this job was really important for building houses and especially for building fireplaces. A brick mason would build the fireplace. Now, our story is in the genre of folk tale. Now, to be a folk tale, a lot of times it starts with once upon a time or long ago, far away. The characters can be animals or other objects that don't normally speak, will speak in a folk tale. And actions and words are often repeated, like some things happen again and again in a story. Characters who are good or characters who are smart win out over those who are evil or not as smart. And the story often teaches us a valuable lesson or has a moral to it. Now, before we get started, let's take a look at our vocabulary. All right. So the first vocabulary word is bundles. Bundles. It means a number of things tied together. And in this story, we're going to have there'll be bundles of sticks. All right. And the other word is load. Load is something that's carried by a wagon or a truck. In this case, I think this is a tractor. So this is the load of bricks, and there'll be a load of bricks in our story. All right. So as we're reading this, I want you to think about the different kinds of homes that you're going to hear about in The Three Little Pigs. Now, this story doesn't have any illustrations to it, so you just have to listen as I read. Once upon a time, there was an old mother pig with three little pigs. And as they had grown, and there was no more room for them, she sent them off into the world. The first little pig met a maid with bundles of straw. He said to her, "Please, ma'am, sell me that straw so I may build a house," which she did, and he built a house with it. Now, what does that mean when the author writes a maid with bundles of straw? So we said that bundles are things tied together. And a maid was a woman that used to work around the house. So it was probably a lady carrying things of straw bundled together, and he wanted to use it to build his house. The second little pig met a woodcutter with bundles of wood. He said to him, "Please, sir, sell me that wood so I may build a house," which he did, and the pig built a house with it. The third little pig met a mason with a load of bricks. She said to him, "Please, sir, sell me those bricks so I may build a house," which he did, and she built a house with them. Now, what does the author mean by a mason with a load of bricks? Remember, we said a mason was somebody who built things with bricks, so he must have had a load of these bricks. The three little pigs lived happily for a time in their houses made of straw, of wood, and of bricks, near each other and near a deep, dark forest. But soon a wolf came to the forest. He knocked at the door of the straw house owned by the first little pig and said, little pig, let me come in." To which the little pig answered, "No, not by the hair on my chinny chin chin." This made the wolf angry, and he said, "Then I'll huff, and I'll puff, and I'll blow your house in." So he huffed and he puffed, and he blew the house in. The frightened little pig scampered off just in time and escaped the big bad wolf. Since his straw house had been blown in, He hid with his brother in the house made of wood. The wolf followed close behind. He came to the woodhouse and said, little pigs, let me come in." To which the two little pigs answered, "No, not by the hair on our chinny chin chin." "Then I'll huff and I'll puff, and I'll blow your house in." Okay, so what makes this part of the story sound like a folk tale? Right, something is being repeated. First, he went to the house of straw and he said those exact same words, little pig, let me come in." And then he said, "I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house in." So those actions are being repeated. So he huffed and he puffed, and he puffed and he huffed, and at last he blew the house in. The two frightened little pigs scampered off just in time. They hid with their sister in the brick house. The wolf came to the brick house and said, I think you know what he said, little pigs, let me come in." To which the three little pigs answered, "No, not by the hair on our chinny chin chins." "Then I'll huff and I'll puff, and I'll blow your house in." Well, he huffed and he puffed and he puffed and he huffed and he huffed and he puffed, but he couldn't blow the house in. The wolf, tired from all of his huffing and puffing, slunk off to the woods, never to be seen again, and the three little pigs lived happily ever after, safe and warm, together in the brick house they shared. Now, what else can you tell me makes this sound like a folk tale? A folk tale. Now, remember it said the story may begin with words like once upon a time, and our story did begin with once upon a time. The characters can be animals, and our characters surely were animals. There were three pigs and a wolf. It said the actions and words are often repeated, which we saw that as he went from house to house. He said the same things, and the pigs also said the same things. The actions were repeated. Characters who are good or smart win over those who are evil or not as smart. And that's what happened. The three little pigs won because that smart little pig used bricks to build a nice, strong, sturdy house that couldn't be blown in. And the story often teaches a lesson or a moral. So, what could you learn from that story? That maybe straw and sticks aren't a very good material to make a house from, but nice, strong bricks, taking the time to make a nice house, strong house of bricks, is probably the way to go. So, you'll be safe and sound. I will be sure to include the discussion starters with your assignment so that you can talk about the three little pigs with your big person.